Miss Madison. I talk about spirituality, I talk about metaphysics, I talk about quantum concepts on my channel, and today we are talking about our 30-day quantum leap activation. So if you've been on the channel, you've been seeing we've been doing a 30-day activation where day by day we are going through here's what you do to quantum leap in 30 days. And what we're doing in this challenge is we're actually developing a new identity rather than just trying to like hop into a new timeline. We're also doing things like learning quantum codes and learning how to access things like EFT tapping and visualization to be able to create art and reality. So today I'm going to take you guys through days 18 to 22. So what you can do is you can either just kind of take notes as we're going through, or you can pause the video and come back for each day that you need it. But before I did that, I wanted to just pull a card and really just maybe give some validation for you guys tuning in. Who is this message for? Who would really benefit from delving into this quantum leap challenge? I just wanted to pull a couple cards and see who this really is for. Okay, cool. So this quantum leap activation is going to be for people who want to start a new life or want to have a new beginning, and you have a very clear visual of what that looks like in your mind. You probably don't have to tap into visualization. You already know what that looks like, or you feel like in the past maybe you've gotten visions or inklings of what that's supposed to look like. And this is saying what you want wants you. You wouldn't have those visions or dreams or beliefs or whatever if there wasn't a version of you out there that was able to say, yes, I can do those things. This is also going to be reaching a collective that is wanting spiritual community. So one thing that I've really been trying to do in my business is build spiritual community, because there is definitely in some places there's a lot of spiritual community you can tap into. I personally live in Greensboro, North Carolina, not a super spiritually conscientious place. So this is going to be for people who are either in the process of trying to build their own spiritual community or wanting to find the right spiritual community. And if this is something you're looking for and you haven't found it, I challenge you to ask your spirit guides. Just like, hey, spirit guides, I am looking to bring in my soul family, my soul tribe, my spiritual family. Can you connect me with them? Because the ways that I've met my like soul family, my soul tribe, I couldn't even begin to, I could never have curated these situations better than the universe, right? Okay, this is also going to be for a group that probably resonates with those things, but is also dealing with some burnout. You're in a phase where you really need to rest and replenish. Maybe you've been dealing with a lot of ascension symptoms. Maybe you've been dealing with a lot of just challenges with Mercury retrograde. Maybe just life's been, life in. You need to sleep. You need to actually allow your body to sleep. And what I found is there's two main perceptions we have around sleep, right? There's some people who are raised by families where it's considered lazy to sleep in, and then you have this perception of like, okay, I can't ever sleep in, or I can't ever do, that because that's lazy. And then you have another people who are, kind of raised on the premise of like, oh, you slept for 12 hours, your body must have needed it, right? And so that's what I've been trying to adapt is like, oh, if I, sleep for 10 or 12 hours one night, my body probably needed it. I'm in the process of trying to, learn how to run 10 plus miles and doing a lot of spiritual work, and like that's a lot of energy, and I need to acknowledge that within myself. So if that resonated, you're in the right place, and let's get into our content. So today we're going to talk about day 18. So for day 18, you're going to say no to something that does not resonate with the future life you're trying to build. So whenever you're trying to quantum leap into a new timeline, there's always a possibility that within that there will be opportunities for you to backtrack into habits that you used to have. So for me, I used to be a people pleaser. So every time I try to up level, I notice that there's times where people will ask me to do things that a past version of me would have said yes out of obligation, and now this version of me is like, no, I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel aligned for me, and I need to just tell them that, right? So one thing that I've started to do is I used to be the kind of person who asked me to do something immediately, I would say yes, even if I hadn't checked my calendar. Now I just say, oh, wow, that sounds really fun. Let me check my calendar. Or if that's not something that interests me, I'll say, oh, that's really cool. Not necessarily something that interests me, but maybe we could do something else, together to spend time together. You don't always have to just like say yes because you're excited to have friends. And like that's kind of how I am. Like I just love building deep relationships and connections, but I can do that in ways that also feels aligned for me, right? Okay, so day 19. So if you guys want to pause day 18, come back to day 19, feel free. We are doing today a self talk audit. Let's talk about what a self talk audit is. So we all have this belief playing in the back of our mind where whenever something goes good or bad, that subconscious is running the program. So we're going to get really real about one area where we say things that do not contribute to the timeline that we want to bring in, because remember, in this quantum leap challenge, we're taking accountability for the fact that we build our own reality. So if we want to build our own reality, we cannot be saying things about ourselves or our reality that are not aligned with the reality we want to build. Otherwise, you're just like confusing the energy, right? You're like, I want to be a millionaire, but I don't feel safe holding $20. It doesn't match. So, self talk audit. Here's the example. If you're somebody who would say things like, oh, if it's not one thing, it's another, what you're going to do is you're going to reframe that into past tense. And you're going to say, in the past, it might have felt overwhelming and like things were coming back to back to back. But now I have a toolbox of things where I can pull from, connecting with my spirit guides, using quantum codes, using things like meditation and grounding, using things like EFT tapping. I now have a toolbox of things that I can pull from when life feels overwhelming to help regulate myself instead of getting trapped in that cycle of if it's not one thing or another. Because if you believe if it's not one thing or another, that's the reality you will create. And I've watched so many people say things like that. Whenever I first started doing this work, I was doing a little experiment with some people around me and just watching some of the negative things that I'd heard them say, for years, and then watch those things come to fruition. And I was like, they literally are creating their own negative reality. And then when those things happen, they're like, oh, why is this happening? And it's like, you literally told the universe this was going to happen. So the universe created that reality for you. And that's a hard thing to acknowledge because at some point in your spiritual journey, as you begin to gather more self awareness, you begin to get really clear on the fact that you do create your own reality. And if you don't like where you are right now, maybe not everything to get you there was in your control, but it's your responsibility to build a new life if you don't like the one that you have. And that's what we're doing in this challenge is just taking radical accountability for the fact that you can build any life you want, but it's not always going to be easy. And let's say you have had 64 years of trauma. You're not going to undo all that overnight. It's going to take time and energy and habits and retraining the mind in order for you to fully step into a new chapter. So this is definitely not like a quick fix type of thing. This is definitely a doing the inner work, but I'm guiding you throughout the process. So, okay, day 20. Who were you before the world told you who you had to be? So, I'm going to tell you all a story. I don't know if you guys, this story might age me. I grew up on the TLC show What Not to Wear. And on this show, there was this woman named Stacey London. And basically, what she did was take these women that were, incredibly talented and just amazing humans. So maybe they were in like a down stage of their life. And she basically helped them get their confidence back through a lot of 3D modalities, right? Through getting, a new look and blah, blah, blah. But I always resonated with I want to help people who are at their lowest and transform them and show them how much power and ability they have, right? And so I can remember when I was a kid, I'm probably, I don't know, let's say 10 years old in this story. And I tell my dad, and my dad's passed away now, but my dad was a attorney whenever he was alive. And my dad was very focused on you build a 3D life and you do the 3D things, and that's how to be successful because he is somebody who grew up really poor and was able to kind of overcome that. That's what he did it, how he did it. So he assumed that was the only route, right? So I tell him, like, hey, I want to be Stacey London from What Not to Wear when I grow up. And he's immediately like, okay, well, that's not a real job. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to college and you're going to get a real job and you're going to work for somebody else. And that's how you're going to be successful. And I was like, oh. And it's interesting because I can look back at things like that and I could play the victim and I could say, oh, I accidentally, got all these degrees and built a career to try to impress my dad. And part of the time that I was, building that career, he was dead, right? Like, I can definitely look back and have that acknowledgement that, like, I wanted his approval or validation or acknowledgement with what I was doing with my career. But ultimately, that wasn't my thing to fulfill and it wasn't my dream or my journey, right? And so I think that there's a lot of things like that that as you're going through this, you might uncover that, oh, there are times where I wanted to do something completely different. And maybe I was told that that reality is not possible based on the reality that the people around me believed to be possible, right? Because a lot of times people, like, in that moment, my dad was just coming from a place of like, this is what I know. This is the truth. Like, the truth that I know is that if you want to not to have to be poor, this is the only way I've been able to see it be done, right? So it's interesting, just the things that you start to learn and uncover and unpack as you're doing this work. So I say this story on day 20 to go back to what makes you feel alive, because ultimately what I was looking for in that is I loved to be able to see these women transform, and I knew that I was going to do something to help women transform from this place of feeling really low and really down to this place of just like really positive and really in alignment and just really peaceful, right? And I didn't know that that resonated through this, right? But that was the only outlet that I saw at the time that resonated with this mission that I felt that I had at 10 years old. And then at some point, maybe we decide, oh, that's silly, it's not achievable or whatever. And then we do the things that the world tells us to do. And then maybe we realize that didn't make me happy either. So what's next? All right, day 21. Pause, come back for day 21, whatever you need to do. Today we're doing EFT tapping. So we have done EFT tapping one other day in the series, and we're going to do it again. During this series, the reason we're using EFT tapping is because as you change timelines and as you step into a new identity, your body is naturally going to try to self-sabotage because your body wants to keep you safe. And even if the timeline that you're in right now isn't the timeline you want to be in, it's the timeline that your body knows exists and feels safe in, because the body knows what to expect, even if what it's going to expect is not ideal, right? So, what we're going to do is we're really going to focus on being able to make the body feel safe with change, and we're going to do that through EFT tapping. So, what I love to do with EFT tapping is I normally do legs on the ground. Just kind of, I'll take a couple deep breaths, clear my energy. And then normally I just will tap right in this area. Some people prefer to tap up here. Some people prefer to tap like this. It truly does not matter. It's whatever feels good for you. This is personally what I feel regulates me the most, because I feel like most of my dysregulation comes between my throat and my heart chakra, and my heart knowing something is true and my throat wanting to maybe succumb to the 3D because that feels easier or safer, right? So this is where I do mine. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pick a couple affirmations to remind ourselves. We're going to say, it is safe for me to quantum leap. It is safe for me to choose a new timeline. It is safe for me to shift out of the timeline that I've been in. But we're also going to acknowledge that in the past, change has been scary, change has been unknown. And so it's totally natural for the body to feel unsure about this transition. But now we are a different person. We have different tools in our toolboxes. We've learned different lessons. So now it's safe for us to change and to upgrade, because we're not that version of self that had to shrink anymore. We're now the version that can show up authentically, and we don't have to sabotage or shrink. And you can go back and replay that or whatever you need to anytime. And that's literally the practice I do, like real time. If I'm, let's say, going to an event and I'm going to speak at this event and I feel that like imposter syndrome, I would literally sit in my car and do this EFT tapping before I will go into the event and just remind myself, like, it's totally normal that you feel fearful right now. Like, you should feel fearful. It's something you've never done before, or it's a size of an audience you've never spoken to before. It's totally normal. But we're not going to sabotage just because it's uncomfortable. We're going to acknowledge that fear's here, but we're going to say, hey, fear, you can like get in the back seat, but you're not in charge. You're not taking the driver's seat today. So That is day 21. So, day 22 is where we're going to close off for this episode. So, day 22, back to basics. Do not skip this day because you cannot do the rest of the work without the basics. So, pick two of the three things that I'm about to tell you and focus on implementing that as a habit, not as a quick fix. 8 hours of sleep, 64 ounces of water, two servings of fruit or vegetables a day. 2 out of 3 of those commit. If you have to start with 1 out of 3 of those, then add 2 out of 3 of those. But ideally, 3 out of 3 of those is really what allows your body to function at the maximum capacity where you're able to focus and perform at the way that your body needs to. And I know we love to think we can live off of 5 hours of sleep and like a Red Bull. I used to do that, not hating. I did that lifestyle for many years. Now I've learned that that actually does not create the same output as getting 8 hours of sleep and taking care of your body and eating good does. So I hate to say that all the people that said, just take care of your body, blah, 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 they were right. So today we're focusing on that. I will see you guys in the next episode for days 23 and on. If you guys want to follow along and get your own PDF guide. You can find that in the show notes. And what you'll see is actually links to everything that I've been talking about, as well as some more in depth prompts and guides. So you can see that in the show notes, and it will take you to the 30-day Quantum Leap guide. And I do also have a 12-week roadmap for new spiritual entrepreneurs who are not sure where to start and would like a little bit of guidance. Oh, one more thing I forgot to tell you guys. I still do have a couple of spots left for Hilton Head. So if you're new here, I'm doing a retreat in Hilton Head September 11th to September 14th. And we are going to do 4 days, 3 nights at Hilton Head. It's going to be a mix of fun, girly time and deep spiritual work. So we're going to do things like meditation and energy healing by the water and by the ocean. And we're going to do oracle card circles and journal prompt circles. But we're also going to do like a fun mermaid night and like pizza on the beach. And like it's going to be a really fun mix. So if you are somebody who's looking for your tribe, everybody that's signed up so far are all people that are honestly just like really amazing humans that are on their own spiritual path and journey and looking for their own spiritual community. So if that aligns with you, we'd love to have you join us. You can also find that link in the show notes. And I will see you guys